we are conceived, society imposes expectations on our lives based on gender. We have a familiar ritual, the baby shower, and highlights perfectly this because we symbolize girls with many stuff in pink color. And when it's a boy, we decorate with blue things. This shaped the expectation of the family about the babies and all the behaviors that came before. So the gifts we receive from the earliest moments are shaping our behaviors and what society expects from us. These norms accompany us through our lives and impact every aspect and decision we make, not only what clothes we use or our social interaction, but also the fields of the study we pursue on the job opportunities we are available to do. But where do these behaviors come from? Are they natural, or are we simply acting out rules that society expects from us? So to understand this, we need to talk about Judith Butler's theory of gender called performativity. In the next slide, we will see that it's two mascaras that is like showing that we are performing or acting. So according to Butler, gender is not something we are born with, it's something we perform or act. It's a series of repeated actions and behaviors that conform society expectations. For example, when we dress a certain way or act like feminine or masculine, we are actually performing a role. And that society has assigned us. So this constant repetition of behavior reinforces this idea of gender is natural. But Butler argues that it's not something we do, but something we are. So this idea of performing challenge the traditional view of binary, the idea that there are only two genders, because what happens with people, it's outside these rules. They don't fit. So if we are acting or performing something, they mean that we can be outside this. So next slide. So we need to explore what gender expectations make to do people. Okay, so stereotypes are oversimplified ideas about what men and women are supposed to be like. For instance, we often hear that women are too emotional, or men should be strong or independent. These stereotypes are so harmful because they limit what individuals can achieve and how they are perceived. For women, in particular, gender stereotypes create barriers to leadership. We see unequal pace on career opportunities, while men are criticized for showing vulnerability or even their own emotions. So if we get a little closer of these social norms and stereotypes specifically impact lives, we maybe can challenge this. Next slide. For women, gender norms often translate into a double workload, working professionally while still taking the most of caregiving or domestic responsibilities. So this reflects the idea of normativity, where society views certain behaviors as normal or natural. Women who step outside these rules, whether by focusing on their career or not having children, are also criticized because they don't fit in. And this social pressure not only limits the freedom of making decisions, but also affects our mental health. So, how do we break free from these expectations or create a more equal society? We need to challenge this and maybe abolish them. So, next slide, please. To challenge gender norms, we need to recognize that they are socially constructed and not biological determined. This means that they can be changed. And one key concept on this is the intersectionality. This term developed by Kimberly Crenshaw try to explain how different aspects of a person um, such as gender, race, class, or sexuality interact. And these create a unique experience of discrimination or privilege. For example, women of color often face both, like gender discrimination and racial discrimination, and which make their experience more complex and for those women or men of color. Crenshaw specifically talked about the difference between white women and women of color when white women were trying to have voting rights while women of color were still in slavery. So this demonstrate the idea that we are all different, and even when they were all women, they were living different pressures of society. So intersectionality helps us to see that gender norms don't affect us in the same way. Marginalized groups like